depending on the context you're working. In smaller farms, you need to prove even if the producer know that this calf would be a milking cow, they do not see the added value of improving condition of rearing in those calves. So this is an investment. So if you don't address the weakest point of the herd, whatever you do, your intervention won't meet the expectation of the producer, because he say, okay, let's go, and I think that we have to put a new antimicrobial for the first case detection and to see what's happened. But if you don't go further and say, okay, why are you treating so many calves? Because your barn is not ventilated adequately. So this is very important, in my opinion, to focus our intervention, and before focusing our intervention on one side, just to be sure that we have covered all the risk factors of BRD, lung consolidation for sure.
If we go out, and these are in my upper Midwest herds, New York, some East Coast herds, all right, medium to large for the Midwest, okay, herds, indoor group housed, typically, or indoor individually housed. If we go and spot check in the pre-weaning barn, so just go out there once, measure all of those pre-weaned calves, or most of them, we're going to see 2 to 4 subclinicals for every clinical that we see. Score 0 is normal. A 1 is going to be some diffuse comet tailing, which just means the surface of the lung is a little thicker. A 2 is that lobular or patchy pneumonia. 3 is one lobe. So here's an example of a lobular lesion. We've got pleura here, reverb. These are comet tails. They start from the surface of the lung and go vertically. Here our pleura is kind of fading out a bit, and we lose a reverb. We see around focal area, and then we've got aerated lung on the other side of it. So any lesion that's got aerated lung dorsally, this is dorsal and this is ventral. So it's got aerated lung dorsally and aerated lung ventrally. It means it's surrounded by air. It has to be a lobular lesion. Lobar lesions are going to be consolidated all the way down to the ventral aspect of that lobe. Okay, that's going to be my definition of a lobar lesion. But when I talk to people about whether or not they know treatments are working on the farm, I usually, not usually, but often will get the retort, well, it's just a Band-Aid. It's not, you know, I want to know how to stop the disease from happening. But what I'll show you through some math is that if we can decrease the duration of disease, we can lower our overall prevalence of disease. Okay, and I'll show you how that works.
Look outside the conference center and get yourself in a view where you can see the Gateway Arch. The success side really refers to how an organization such as AABP and the annual conference and all the opportunities that it presents to our members helps to set people up for success. What it is.
And he will be discussing medical ultrasound of the bovine abdomen. Please help join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Streeter.
This is normal, good motility, 2 to 4 centimeters in diameter, multiple loops that are visible, and we start to get worried when we have bigger loops that are, greater than 4 centimeters in diameter and fewer number of loops, and that's going to be indicative of either severe ileus or obstructive ileus. The things that are going to make me think obstructive ileus rather than...
All right. So today, I was charged with talking to you all about field anesthesia. The first thing that I actually recognized when they asked me to talk about field anesthesia was I was rooked. Okay, it's really difficult to say, hey, do this protocol for this protocol for that. I think everything kind of changes depending on the animals that you're looking at. So, lidocaine. Lidocaine is going to be really exceptional for local or regional blocks. You've got another talk coming up on regional or on regional blocks, so I'm not going to kind of cover those too much. But the one other one to think about is your lumbosacral epidural. Okay, if you need an animal down, you need to be sure that she's not going to kick on her back end. You will get a fairly sizable back end analgesia up to about just distal to the umbilicus.
We're going to talk about local anesthesia of the eye and the foot, and this is in this place in the schedule to build on talks that come later. So I'm going to talk about eye surgery next, and then Dr. Streeter is going to talk about deep digital sepsis, and so this was designed. And what this block exploits is where we have the nerves come down and branch out and supply the toes. And so we're going in where that branching occurs. We're getting the block in there, and now we've denervated the toes for us to be able to work on it. And so again, we really should only need this one most of the time if the foot is so swollen that the dorsal common digital vein is not available to us, or there's some other reason that the dorsal common digital vein isn't available. Now we're going to talk about surgery of the eye, or what I like to call Hereford surgery. And in my experience, they don't really bleed enough to really, that I would think that that would be important. And there's always, to me, a little bit of a concern when I put epinephrine and lidocaine about wound healing afterwards if they're vasoconstricted. It's brief, but I always think about that. And so once you get those clamps off, she now doesn't have a third eyelid, so you know it was a success. And they'll just kind of tear a little blood for a little while. And so
Mad cow disease? Mad cow disease, or bovine spongiform encephalopathy. All play, all players can ring in. In the luteal phase, days 1 through 17, the estrous cycle is primarily under the influence of which hormone? Michigan State, player 1.
Progesterone?
Progesterone is correct. Okay, Michigan State gets the bonus question, so you get 10 seconds to talk amongst yourselves. Name 5 possible infectious causes of abortion in cattle.
While that's happening for the biogenic carbon cycle, it's not happening for fossil fuels. On the right side, you see fossil fuels, they were in the ground for, because our special friends do one thing. I understand their agendas, I've studied them long enough. But what they really do is they're trying to convey the public to believe that all that matters is to change what we eat. And as long as we do that, we can relax upon everything else we do. And that's dangerous. That is dangerous, and it does the opposite to what needs to be done in order to reduce our climate impacts, which is we do need
research and development and investment in the future of the veterinary profession. Through this partnership between the AABP Lizzie Andrus attends the University of Wisconsin, and upon graduation, Lizzie plans to enter dairy practice in Wisconsin. Emily Griswold.
That is our future. Now I want a 20-second applause for all the students. And who's got a second hand? Mary, you got a second hand? On your watch?
Here's a little cartoon that illustrates what you're getting with the linear rectal probe and with the convex rectal probe. Not on the scale, of course, but typically your linear rectal probe will get you 10 to 15 centimeters of penetration. A convex rectal probe will get you 24 to 30 usually. So almost twice as much penetration, get a lot deeper. You can look at a much larger chunk of a more advanced fetus. Another illustration here of the shape of the array that you're getting there. So here are two images. And these embryos are about the same stage of gestation, about 45 to 48 days. So reasons that you might want to implement arm-free ultrasound. I put the top three in bold because these are the things that we hear just over and over again. It reduces wear on the operator. You don't want to grow old and have a bum shoulder because you've been in so many cows every year. Speed is a big one as well, and of course, cleanliness. And these are the things that come around time and time again. However, we also hear, and you potentially save your shoulder over time. Okay, so technique-wise, there's really not much to it. Make sure to use a lot of lubricant, and obviously just don't push if you feel resistant. What's that? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. If it keeps changing, I'll just keep watching. Yeah, that's great. Right.
And transport media is required. There may not be a point. Do you have the equipment needed to collect it? Do you have a biopsy instrument or something like that? Some sample substitutions are okay and some are not. And it may not be even obvious that plasma and serum can't always be substituted, but they can't always be substituted for each other, which means that the personnel in your office need to know the difference between plasma and serum.
District 11. District 12. District 13. And District 8.
Bueno, ¿cómo están todos? Estamos aquí presentando al doctor Sebastián Buczynski. Es un doctor quizás uno de los más importantes en el mundo en ultrasonido, porque ha creado muchísimas nuevas informaciones acerca de esos bovinos, y en este momento le vamos a realizar unas preguntas. So, Dr. Buczynski, what is your name, where do you work, and what is your specialty?
So my name is Sebastian Buczynski. I'm from France, but now I'm working in the ambulatory service of the Faculty de Médecine Vétérinaire of the University of Montreal. And my specialty is internal medicine and mostly calf health and respiratory problems. And I'm also a big fan of ultrasound, which I use a lot for making internal medicine in cows and cattle.
What do you think the most of the vets who use ultrasound for repro don't use it for other systems?
I think that maybe the perceived added value is not that much, and maybe a lack of confidence in the technique.
However, we see that it can be useful to decide whether a cow can be culled or not, and whether to tailor our treatment decision and also our culling decision. So this is an added value that we can put in our clients, helping them to decide where to reach a better diagnosis and propose a treatment that is accounting for this accurate diagnosis.
Okay. So, did you publish something on ultrasound working or with bovines?
Yes, I publish a couple of articles and textbooks. So in 2009 I published a textbook which is written in French, but which is a very practical book with a lot of pictures, and I was also guest editor of 2 vet clinics of North America on bovine ultrasound, where a lot of people were involved in to look for the different indication of ultrasound for many purposes beyond reproductive use.
So, can you invite people to bring or to do more ultrasound beyond repro, for example, thoracic ultrasound, abdominal ultrasound, and other soft tissue ultrasound?
Yeah, I think that we are, as a profession, we have to prove that we are not only technician, and so we have to involve time in technical things that we can interpret, and things that could not be done by a person that is not a vet. So like for example, for individual cases management, ultrasound, abdominal ultrasound is something that definitely would help, and would also be something that would help in animal welfare, because you will have the diagnosis without laparotomy, explorative laparotomy, so it helps in terms of animal welfare. And in other, there is also for thoracic ultrasound, something that is very good is that you can use not only at the individual level, but also at a herd level tool to monitor clinical and subclinical cases. And once you get an idea of what's happening in the herd, depending on the risk factor, you can correct for those risk factors, and after that, coming back a couple of months later and have an objective way to measure pneumonia and improvement in pneumonia, because case detection is highly farmer dependent, however the lesions are there or not. So it's something that can be useful to have in our tool for treating calf problem. And I think I invite practitioners to follow wet labs or workshop to improve their skills. And for thoracic ultrasound, you don't need any specific equipment. Only a probe that you use for a repro would be enough. So that's something you should try.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bueno, amigas y amigos, otro congreso que se acaba, mucho aprendizaje, algo más de experiencia, cosas que podemos y otras que no podemos aplicar en nuestro lugar de trabajo, pero gracias a Dios yo tuve la oportunidad de ir a estos congresos y actualizar mi conocimiento y agregar algo más al que ya tenía. Espero les haya gustado y lo hayan disfrutado y que sigan pendientes de este canal, y vamos adelante con la vida del veterinario de vacas. Hasta la próxima.
Bueno, y el viaje está llegando a su final. ¿Son qué horas son? Son las... no sé qué... todavía no son ni las 5, creo. Claudia está comiendo la roja de mandarina que no se quiso comer durante el viaje. María José obviamente está viendo algo para desestresarse. El viaje llega o está llegando a su final en este momento, o más adelante vamos a abordar hasta Miami, después vamos para Bogotá.